If you're going to trash the cops and trash law and order, after a while, that takes an effect on a society. I don't know what it had directly to do with this or not, but just as a general matter. And the corrupt media in this country promote all of this stuff, all this rock gut. The culture is collapsing. Our values and principles are under attack. Our faith and religion is under attack. Remember the shutdown during the virus? Remember what they were doing to Orthodox Jews? Remember how they were closing churches? Meanwhile, the abortion clinics were open and the ABC alcohol stores were open. I mean, just completely insane. What else? And by the way, that is daunting to undertake the reformation of a culture that's gone south. And yet these American Marxist movements, the educational bureaucrats, the things that they're teaching our kids, they all soften up the culture, weaken the culture. What else? They have to harden these schools. Many of you, you've been flying. You can't get on that plane without going through metal detectors, without your luggage going through metal detectors, sometimes pat downs. All those TSA agents are carrying pistols, all of them. And there's also armed police, airport police or city police, who are armed, who are there with their badges, showing themselves. You can't get in the Capitol building today, really even before, without going through a metal detector, without sending your things through a metal detector. And there are armed Capitol Police. They have their own police department. What is it about our school systems where we allow people to say that we are not going to do that for our children? I mean, you can imagine some of these school districts that are so hostile to law enforcement and so hostile to guns. And during, or right after the Parkland massacre in Florida, we had this debate. And there were actually school boards and superintendents said, no, we don't want guns in our schools, meaning armed, trained police officers or military personnel or veterans or what have you. They're everywhere else. They're at sporting events. As I said, they're on Capitol Hill. They surround the White House in so many public places, airports, but not our kids. And so let me make this suggestion very, very strongly, and I've made it on radio, and I want to make it part of this movement. We helped launch this parents movement on radio, here on BlazeTV, here on my Fox program, with my book, American Marxism. We showed parents in specific, and the citizenry, how to use Freedom of Information Act requests, how to use filings with the Internal Revenue Service, how to use shareholder meetings, and on and on and on. Activism on behalf of Americanism, especially kids. But we parents and grandparents need to become more active in our schools, not just about the curriculum, not just about the teachers' unions, it's not just about the budgets. But we need to put at the top of our list now the safety and security of our children. This can no longer be left to simply the educational bureaucrats. We have got to demand that these schools be secured on the perimeters and inside, and that the resources are provided. Tens of billions of dollars went to these schools last year. Tens of billions. The Biden administration and the Democrat Party passed that massive bill. Where did it go? You have report after report that didn't go toward COVID. Didn't go toward changing the HVAC systems and so forth. Much of it went to critical race theory and these other things. We have to insist that that stops and that the number one priority is the protection of our children when we send them off to school. They're there 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And the unions claim they own our children and we don't own them when they're there. No, we own them. They belong to us. They actually belong to God, but they belong to us. They don't belong to any union or any teachers group. But we have to insist that our children are protected, because if we don't insist, they're not going to be, particularly in some areas of this country. given the ideology. So that's the second thing that needs to be addressed. None of this was addressed by Joe Biden. Instead, he did the same thing he always does. He is unpresidential. He is unstatesmanlike. He is that street political hack. And when you limit debate to guns and gun control and to attacking the National Rifle Association, the gun lobby, then you don't have a debate about the answers that are necessary to fix these problems. They're not on the table. And I'm not going to play any more of Joe Biden's speech. It was a horrible, disgraceful act by this man who cannot get his head out of partisan politics. So he goes after the gun lobby. The fact of the matter is there is no gun lobby. It's us. It's simply an organization that represents people who own guns. Third thing, people who own guns are not mass murderers. The AR-15 is not an assault rifle. No combat unit in the United States military that still has sanity would ever take a civilian AR-15 into combat. They're not a militarized rifle. Now, against defenseless children, where there's not an armed guard to my knowledge to defend them, if somebody goes into a school with a weapon like that, they're going to kill a whole lot of people because there's not a good guy shooting back. When the good guys showed up, they put an end to it. And by the way, one of the things CBS didn't say, and this is very, very important, the actual man who shot this murderer dead was part of an elite Border Patrol unit. Because this town is close to the border, this unit happened to be near the school. Just happened to be there. It was fortuitous. Still lost 19 little babies and 2 teachers. And in that gunfight, this Border Patrol hero killed the murderer. And he was also shot in the leg, not fatally. The Border Patrol. Systemically racist? No, I don't think so. The police, who were in the shootout, systemically racist? No, I don't think so. Then that's the next point. You can't keep trashing and cutting the budgets of our first responders, our police officers, and expect there to be respect for police and the necessary fear that you won't take criminal actions because the police will stop you. The war on the cops has had consequences, like the war on the culture and the war on the classroom. They have consequences, like the war on God and the war on faith. They have consequences. That doesn't mean in every instance you're going to stop somebody, but maybe we'll stop one. And then finally, at least for now, every person with mental issues is not a mass murderer. And I'm a little sick and tired of this too, the stereotype. The overwhelming majority, almost every single person who has mental issues is not a killer, is not a mass murderer in waiting. And so now we're stigmatizing people who have mental issues or handicaps, whether they're bipolar, whether they are manic depressive, whether they're autistic, whether they have some form of dementia, whatever it is. So fewer and fewer people will come forward because of this stigma out there. That's not to say that there aren't people with mental issues like the murderer in Buffalo who should have been given a lot more attention than he was. I mean, 36 hours just doesn't cut it. And that fell through the cracks. Society's imperfect. Our systems are imperfect. You got to do what you can to make them more perfect. Not perfect, more perfect. And screaming like a nut during a presidential speech and saying, for God's sakes, 4 or 5 times doesn't get us where we need to be. And passing some senator's legislation on gun control isn't going to fix a damn thing. You look at these cities and states with the biggest gun control laws, whether they're Chicago or New York State, they can't seem to stop murders, can they? Because laws are made by evil people to violate. That's what murderers do. They're not thinking about gun registration. No, we need to have law-abiding people in the right place who are trained with the right weapon to protect our babies.
For more, sign up for Levin TV.